Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from Aman Talks FPL. In this video, we're going to go through some teams and players that I potentially want to target from gameweek23 onwards. It could be due to a combination of factors of either potential double game week or just a good set of fixtures, or even some teams and players that are going a little bit under the radar. So it's a bit of a watch list type of video, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, really appreciate a thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, but let's get straight into it. And so the first thing that we're going to be talking about is Aston Villa, and that's due to a combination of factors. A, new manager, they seem to have done pretty well with Steven Gerrard coming in the past couple of game weeks. B, they've got a potential double game week in 23 of Everton and then also Burnley or Leeds, so it would be quite a nice double game week if it does eventuate. And thirdly, they've just got a nice run of fixtures as well from game week 24 onwards. You can see Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, Southampton, West Ham and Arsenal. It's a pretty easy run. They also do have the two postponed fixtures of Leeds and Burnley to remake up, so that obviously feeds into why they might have a potential double game week in 23. And the good thing about Aston Villa is that they've actually got quite a few different players that you can consider compared to say like a Manchester United, where it was pretty obvious it was either going to be Bruno, maybe Ronaldo, and then also De Gea. With Villa, you've got quite a few different options. So in the forwards, you've got both Ings and Watkins. Midfield, you've got Coutinho, Ramsey, even Buendia could be a consideration. And in defence, you could even go for Martinez at the goalkeeper position. Or I think what most people are probably going to be looking to target is the fullbacks, Matty Cash and Luka Dean, because they do seem to play quite far forward under Gerrard's kind of new system. So just briefly talking about the forwards to start off with Ings and Watkins, I would personally go for an Ollie Watkins. He just seems to be a little bit more nailed under Steven Gerrard. Yes, Ings probably does have penalties now that El Ghazi has been loaned out to Everton, but Watkins just seems to be a little bit more nailed on. The underlying stats are also better for Watkins, and he's just got more returns over the season as well, 5 goals and the 2 assists. So Ollie Watkins I really like as a forward option, and I think if Aston Villa do end up getting a double game week in 23, you're going to see him very heavily bought in and probably either replacing Antonio or even a Cristiano Ronaldo. So I think out of the two, I definitely do prefer Watkins. And if we take a look at the midfield, Coutinho obviously is the hot topic just coming in the January transfer window. He's already scored a goal, so that's why the underlying stats are so good for him already, 0.8, because he recorded a big chance very close to goal. But if he keeps getting positions like that, you can see his ownership start to swell immediately, because most people who have watched the Premier League know what kind of a talent he is and what he has previously done in FPL. So Coutinho could be a very interesting early punt. I kind of liken him coming into FPL similar to what I saw with James Rodriguez at the beginning of the last season. So I actually took a punt very early on James Rodriguez, and he scored a couple of nice double-digit hauls. So I kind of have a feeling is the same thing going to happen with Coutinho. He just comes in, makes an immediate impact, and so you're going to see his ownership start to swell. And I think 7 million is a very nice price. And the good thing overall with Aston Villa is that even if they don't have a double game week in 23, you can still invest in them because they've just got those nice run of fixtures coming up. So Coutinho in the midfield at that price point could be a really nice differential if you get on him early enough. He might not be a differential for so long though if he does continue to get some attacking returns. Ramsey I really like as probably the best kind of 4.6 million budget enabler. He's already got 3 goals and a single assist so far this season, and he's pretty nailed on under Steven Gerrard. Underlying stats aren't quite as there because he does tend to play a little bit deeper than the likes of a Coutinho, but I do like Ramsey. If you save potentially on a wild card or you're looking to raise funds, to maybe you need to make some money to go up to Mo Salah again, downgrading one of your midfielders to Jacob Ramsey, I really like that as a pick. It just enables you to get a strong fifth midfielder. Josh Brownhill doesn't seem like Burnley are ever going to play again, so I do think Ramsey is the pick of the 4.5 million priced midfielders. Defense is really interesting for Aston Villa. You can see there in the table to the right, I've got the team expected goals conceded per 90. Now, over the season, Aston Villa are ranked about mid-table, and it's the same for their attack as well, but I do think that some of the early season was kind of weighing down on the stats because of the lot of goals that they were conceding under Dean Smith. With Gerrard, they do seem to have tightened up a little bit, and so I think investing in the defense is not a bad idea. They're nicely priced as well, Luka Dean at 5 and Matty Cash at 5.1 million. I do have some question marks over Dean in terms of how nailed on is he. Matt Targett was playing okay. For Villa, obviously any Villa fans can let me know in the comments below if they think that Dean is a big upgrade on Matt Targett. Matty Cash is probably going to be a little bit more nailed on. I don't see any obvious competition for him at that right wing back spot, and so the underlying stats as well between the two aren't that different. Matty Cash has just got the single goal. Luka Dean actually hasn't had any attacking returns so far this season, but bearing in mind a lot of that is also with him playing for Everton, where he did fall out of favour. He was on some set pieces as well in the last match, so that could be in Luka Dean's favour as well, just some better assist potential. So I think if you're looking to take a punt on either of the two, kind of depends on your risk appetite. I personally maybe might just go for a Matty Cash, just because I know he's a little bit more nailed on potentially, but maybe that's just me being silly thinking, if they've just brought in Luka Dean, they didn't bring him to kind of rotate. Maybe he is nailed on first choice and will play the majority of games, and for the 0.1 million saving, and Luka Dean has done very well in FPL in the past, he could be the way to go. My top 3 picks personally, if I was looking to bring in any of the Aston Villa players, Ollie Watkins I think definitely would be the forward, Coutinho probably would be the midfielder I'd go for, and toss of a coin, but I probably would maybe opt to go for Luka Dean as well, just because he has a little bit more maybe FPL pedigree. But those would be my 3 kind of top targets for Aston Villa, but overall a really good team I think that will be very interesting to target over the next coming game weeks. Now next up is Man City, and no real kind of potential of a double game week for Man City, but the reason we want to invest in them is that A, they've just got amazing fixtures from game week 23 onwards in Southampton, Brentford, Norwich especially, Tottenham, Everton, Manchester United, Crystal Palace. Like, there's no real tough fixtures for Man City, and they're that good of a team that really anyone they verse is considered probably weak opposition. They very comfortably beat Chelsea as well. In the table on the right, you can also just see the dominance that they have. The second best team overall in terms of attack, and by far the best in terms of defense, in terms of expected goals conceded per 90. So you really can consider a lot of their different options. I think the midfield is where most people are going to be focusing their attention in terms of Manchester City options, and also the defense. I think in the forwards, there's enough other options in terms of, Watkins, Ronaldo, Antonio, maybe a Calvert-Lewin, maybe a Watford players, that you might not go for the likes of a Jesus. So I think midfield is kind of where I wanted to start off the discussion. So De Bruyne, Sterling, Foden and Bernardo Silva are the 4 midfielders. Mahrez could be also a consideration, but he's currently on AFCON. I think De Bruyne has come right into our thoughts as well, because he has delivered a lot of attacking returns recently. I think he's got like 5 attacking returns in the last 6 game weeks. He is very expensive, obviously at 12.1 million, and he isn't on penalties, which is a bit of a kind of a negative when it comes to De Bruyne, but the underlying stats there look really, really good. 0.63 expected goal involvement per 90 minutes, and he's just looking a little bit back to his best as well. And if you're looking for like a Mo Salah kind of placeholder at that price point, I really like going for De Bruyne. He could even potentially be a captaincy option, even in game week 23, because if there's no double game week for 23, I don't see any kind of obvious captaincy selection, so you could very easily go for a Kevin De Bruyne or any Manchester City player at that. And even in game week 25, if say Mo Salah isn't back for whatever reason, then at Norwich, De Bruyne could be a fantastic captain option as well. So I really like De Bruyne. Him versus Sterling, because they're kind of both in that kind of premium price category. I probably would prefer De Bruyne, maybe for the just for the more nailed onness. Although I guess the fact that there is no Mahrez could mean that Sterling is actually more nailed on than we think, and his underlying stats are better than De Bruyne's. You can see they're 0.76 expected goal involvement per 90 minutes, and the fact that his expected goals is basically twice as good as De Bruyne's really is something that's good for him, and he is sometimes on penalties as well. Sterling could be a real kind of higher upside, puntier, more differential pick than like a De Bruyne. So Sterling actually, I probably maybe retract my statement. I think if you're having a little bit more fun with that price point, maybe Sterling could be the better way to go in terms of, your premium Man City pick. At a little bit of a cheaper price point, you've got Phil Foden and you've got Bernardo Silva. I think Phil Foden on the underlying stats clearly wins out over Bernardo Silva. Silva, you could say, is very nailed on, but I think Foden, he's just had a little bit of an up and down kind of past few game weeks, either getting COVID and then obviously some disciplinary issues before that as well. But if Phil Foden's back and he is nailed on, he probably is the all-round best option, just because he is so much cheaper than the likes of Sterling and De Bruyne, and his underlying stats are even better than the pair of them as well. He's already got 9 attacking returns on a points per appearance basis as well. I think he ranks the highest out of any of the Manchester City midfielders. I think he's around 5.4 points per match, and Bernardo Silva's at 5 points, and that's even better than the likes of a De Bruyne as well. So Foden, I think overall is the best Man City option to go for. Bernardo Silva, who I do own, I think he's an okay option. The underlying stats aren't quite as good. He definitely was overperforming at that one early part of the season where he was in a bit of a hot streak, but I still think he is a little bit more safety in terms of he's a bit more nailed on maybe than the like that he is pretty nailed on, but he has been tending to drop deep, and I think the return of Kevin De Bruyne has not really helped Bernardo Silva, so I probably can't in good faith recommend him as an option. But I think if you've got him at the moment, I don't think you necessarily need to switch to some of the other options. I think he's fine to hold for the next few game weeks. Now, the discussion on the Manchester City defenders, apart from Cancelo, because I think he's quite an obvious pick if you don't have him already, between Diaz and Laporte is looking pretty nailed on at the moment, and apologies if you I've just re-edited the table because I had noticed an error in that before. But Laporte does have the better underlying stats and a much better goal threat, you could say, on the underlying stats compared to Ruben Diaz. They both have equal kind of FPL returns in terms of goals and assists so far this season, but I think for a 0.7 million price saving, it's quite a significant amount. So I do like Laporte, and he is lower owned than Diaz, so he does also factor into that kind of differential point as well. So I really do like Laporte. If you're looking to double up on the Manchester City defense, that is something I'm looking to potentially do in game week 23 if we find out there's no kind of double game week for Aston Villa. I obviously trust the Manchester City defense a lot more than any other team in the league, and so I'm very happy to double up on the Manchester City defense, and Laporte is probably the way that I go, just because I do feel like he has got slightly better goal threat. He is cheaper as well, and he seemingly looks just as nailed on as Ruben Dias. Now, the next team I wanted to discuss was Leeds United, and the reason I wanted to discuss Leeds partly is also because they potentially could have the double game week this game week, as it would be Newcastle and likely Aston Villa as well, which is a pretty decent double game week. The fixtures on paper for Leeds aren't as strong as, say, like an Aston Villa. Aston Villa again in game week 24, Everton, United, Tottenham, Leicester, Norwich, I think from an attacking point of view, are pretty good. United and Leicester aren't the best defensively, so they're not necessarily the toughest fixtures, I think. And I think Rafinha is the standout pick as well from Leeds. You can see his underlying stats are really good. And 0.6 expected goal involvement per 90 minutes. He's on a lot of set pieces, and if you watch the highlights of the West Ham game, he definitely could have come away with more than the single assist that he got. He was very, very close to getting a second assist. He hit the post as well. I think he had 7 key passes, so he basically created 7 chances. So 10 attacking returns so far this season. I think we all know how good of an option Rafinha is, and at 6.5 million, absolutely bargain. I think he definitely will kind of form part of the new midfield template as well moving forward. So I really like getting on Rafinha early on, even if he doesn't have a double game week this week. He's got Newcastle at home, so a very obliging defense, and I think Rafinha can do very, very well. I have also added in Jack Harrison, but a lot of it is hindsight because he's obviously just scored a hat-trick, so I felt we should maybe discuss him. He has scored like 29 of his total points in the last 2 game weeks, so maybe you could say he's on form, but I don't want to read too much into it. The underlying stats aren't that good for Harrison. He has had a bit of a, I think, injury and COVID affected season as well, so realistically, I think out of the Leeds, I don't really trust their defense that much. You can see there in terms of expected goals conceded, they're the second worst in the entire league, so I think really Rafinha is the only option I'd consider. Obviously, if Bamford was fit, then he would also be a consideration. If we don't know that he's fully back, Rafinha I think is the way to go, but a very good option I think he is to target. And now the final team I wanted to discuss was actually Wolves. So on paper, Wolves don't actually have the best kind of fixtures. You can see Brentford, Arsenal, Tottenham, Leicester, West Ham, then Crystal Palace and Everton. So I think from around game week 28, it does improve a little bit for Wolves, but I think they're just shown to be such a strong defense. I think they've only conceded about 3 goals in the last 10 game weeks, and that's including very good opposition like Liverpool, Manchester City and Chelsea as well. A part of that is due to Jose Sarr. He's proven to be one of the best signings of the season. He's one of the best goalkeepers in terms of saves and the XG that he's prevented as well. He actually has got a single assist so far this season, so he does have some attacking stats. 0.05 expected goal involvement, pretty good for a goalkeeper, but really you want him for the clean sheet potential and the saves as well. Interestingly enough, on the expected goals front, they're actually not the best in terms of defensive numbers, actually 9th in the league, but I think a lot of that actual results is due to Jose Sarr being such a good performer so far this season. So I do think it's one of those cases where the underlying numbers you have to kind of add in your own context, and I think the fact that they're such a good defensive unit is a lot due to Jose Sarr, which is why I think investing in their defenders is still an okay proposition. I haven't really discussed many of their attackers in this section because, as you can see from the team XG, they're pretty poor ranking wise, so I think the defenders is really the way you want to go. And I think even though they have got some tough fixtures on paper, I think they've proven that they can be a very solid defense, and they do have 2 postponed fixtures that they need to make up as well, so there could be future potential as well for double game weeks for Wolves. And I think they're just, if you've got the likes of say like a Tino Livramento and you want to kind of go for more budget picks, Connor Cody, Kilman and also Ayat Nouri as well could be very interesting kind of budget defender picks. I think Ayat Nouri, while he is nailed on with Marcel being injured, probably is the best option to go for. He's 4.3, so he's cheaper than the others, and he also has the best kind of underlying attacking numbers as well. He recently just picked up 2 assists. He's got 3 assists in the overall season so far as well. Otherwise, I would probably go for Connor Cody because he does have some attacking threat as well. He's got 2 goals and he just scored, I think, either last game week or the game week before as well. Sorry, I can't quite remember. But Connor Cody and Ayat Nouri, I think, are good defensive options. Jose Sarr, potentially, if you're looking to go for a goalkeeper change, I think could be a really interesting pick as well. And I think if you're kind of in that area where you've got some defenders that you're looking to ship out, but you don't want to quite stretch up to like a Man City defense, I think going with more budget options like Cody and Ayat Nouri, I really like the look of. And I think at the moment, if you're looking to replace like a Tino Livramento at a very similar price point, I really like the look of Ayat Nouri, and I think definitely I'd be looking to consider the Wolves defenders if I was looking to bring in any defenders. That's it guys, that is my kind of game week 23, bit of a watch list of teams and players that I'm looking to target over the next few game weeks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and found some value out of that. If you did, really appreciate a thumbs up, as always, really helps the channel out. Do please consider subscribing as well to the channel if you're new around here and you want to see more content like this throughout the rest of the season, and I'll see you all in the next video.